3. I'm back, and in this episode of the NBA Draft Junkies podcast, James and I were going to talk about, guess what? The NBA Draft. What's up, everybody? I am your host, Rafael Barlowe, along with my co-host, my brother James. Shout out to James for holding it down while I was away. For those that don't know, I had spent this past season as an international scout. I'm actually in Paris right now. It is about 11:30 p.m. It's about 4:30 Central Time where James is at. So shout out to James for holding it down. And I'm back behind the mic. Paris is so hot today. I mean, I got windows open, so if you hear the random sirens you hear in Paris, it's because I got all the windows open, fans blowing. I mean, 100 degrees in Paris is worse than 110 in Dallas. But anyway, with that being said, happy Father's Day, brother.
Happy Father's Day, man.
Is almost over. Let's talk about it, right? NBA Draft is just a couple days away. It's Sunday night here. As of now, right now, while I'm recording, and maybe by the time you hear this, it might be a little different. Giannis Antetokounmpo still plays for the Milwaukee Bucks. Did you see that tweet that was like, Giannis wants to stay in Milwaukee, but he wants to leave the Bucks?
I thought that was fake. I had to read the letters out loud. Yeah, because sometimes they get tricky and they put a M instead of N for ESPN or I definitely had to read it a couple of times and I'm like, okay, I think I understand what he's saying, but it's still a wild thing for him to say.
It's like a dude saying, like, I want to stay with my family, but I want to leave my wife.
Remember what Donnell Jones said?
Anyway, what do you think happens with Giannis? I mean, do you think that he's going to have a huge impact on the draft?
I think he will, but I don't know how much Milwaukee's going to get back for him. They have the 10th pick, and who wants to trade with him because he will be a free agent at some point. I think it's in 2 years. So it's like, how much leverage do the Bucks really have? I know they want to move up as high as 5, but it's going to take probably 3-4 team trade to make all this happen.
Yeah, I mean, all the rumors are saying that he's going to end up in Miami. And if I'm Miami, I don't want to trade Tyler Hero. Right? I mean, I know that's who you need to get the deal done, but if you take Hero off Miami, does that make them a championship contender with Giannis and Bam? I mean, who's your lineup after that? I mean, if Wiggins decide to stay, is it Bam, Giannis, Wiggins,
Davion Mitchell, and Norman Powell?
I mean, do you think that's enough to get out the East?
No, I don't. So it's like, okay, Miami, you go from a playing team to 7th, or 7th is a playoff team, but 6th, 5th seed maybe. Like it's a lot of parts. I understand Miami as a spot that you want to be in from like a outside of basketball, but just from like a roster standpoint, to get to Miami is going to cost you too much, and I don't see them being a top 3 team in the East if he does end up in Miami, and it costs you Tyler Hero.
Yeah, I mean, it has to be some type of 4-team or 3-team deal, 3 or 4-team deal. I've read that the Pistons are interested in Tyler Hero, which I think that would make sense there. I saw some deal today. I mean, right now at this time of year, people are saying that they're insiders, and some of these people are having these dummy accounts and they're kind of accurate. But I saw one. It was something along the lines of a 4-team deal with the Bucks, Heat, Pistons, and Lakers. I don't know if you saw that one, but it had Khalil Ware and Isaiah Stewart going to the Lakers. It had like Ron Holland and a bunch of first-round picks from Detroit and Miami going to the Bucks. Tyler Hero went to the Pistons, and then Giannis obviously went to the Heat. I mean, I like the trade in theory. I didn't pull out the calculator and do the math. But other than that, I just don't know. And I get why Miami would want Giannis, and I understand why Giannis would want to go to Miami. But I just don't know if that trade, I mean, the framework, what we've heard, puts Miami over the top. But let's say the trade does happen, right? And you're the Bucks and you have 2 lottery picks. Like, who are some guys that you think could be available?
Well, at the same time, I mean, like, this is a really strong draft, right?
You think
And
so?
yeah, I think this is a really strong draft. But at the same time, like, if I'm giving up Giannis, the best player in franchise history, and I come away with the 10th and 13th pick in this draft, and again, obviously half of the Heat roster was rumored to be in that deal. I just think 10 and 13 is just not enough for me in this draft. I would try to move up. But at 10 and 13, I think Nate Ament is in that conversation as somebody who they would end up taking because you want as much upside as possible. At 13 is where he kind of gets, maybe you want a Morris Johnson Jr., but I also saw that Miles Turner would be packaged away somewhere in that deal as well. But I think at 10 and 13, you can get some good players. If I was Miami, I would try to get the Clippers involved for that 5th pick, just because there's just more upside at 5 than there is at 10 or 13.
Yeah, I mean, if you're in Milwaukee, I just think you're in a bad situation. You're in a really bad situation unless you can just end up with a lot of future first-round picks. I mean, trading Giannis is not going to be popular, and from everything I've read, it sounds like he wants to go but doesn't want to necessarily be the bad guy and force his way out. But who knows? So, all right, let's get to the subject that we talked about in depth right before I left about September. AJ Dybantsa or Darryn Peterson. And I was pro AJ. I've been pro AJ since the first time I saw him play. I think it was 3 summers ago at the Nike EYBL in Dallas. And I told myself, all right, this guy's going to be the number 1 pick in whatever draft class he ends up in. And then he ended up reclassifying. Cooper Flag ended up reclassifying. And so I still think today that AJ is the top prospect in this deep draft class. Now, you just put out a mock, or was it a mock or a big board?
Yeah.
And where did you have AJ?
I had AJ number 1.
So you switched up.
I was forced to switch up. I mean, so here's my thing. I think if Darryn Peterson combines the shooting with the driving that we saw from Prolific Prep, playing for Phenom United, like if I think he's that kid with the added shooting, he's the best prospect in the draft. My problem is that the difference between the 2 kids, pre-college and post high school, Darryn Peterson, they're just so far apart, which is why I have him behind AJ Dybantsa. I just don't know which version I'm going to get of him. But if he's able to combine the 2, then I think he's the best prospect. I know that, that we can say, oh, well, he's been hurt and he had the cramping. Like, I get that. That slows you down. But at the same time, I just didn't like what I saw from Peterson as a ball handler, off the dribble driver from Kansas. To me, that isn't like dependent on him being injured. It looked like he just didn't take good angles. It looked like he didn't make good decisions as a ball handler. Understanding that you're hurt, you lose a step, but it looked like he was a different player. So if we don't know who Darryn is, then I'll concede. But if at the same time, if we get the combination of Darryn Peterson, the versions, then that's the best player in this draft.
So you're the GM of the Wizards. Your job is on the line. Who are you taking?
I'll take AJ because I know who he is, but at the same time, I don't believe that AJ is a head and shoulders prospect ahead of the 2 guys. I also don't think if Cooper Flag reclassifies, he's a better prospect than Cooper Flag. I don't think AJ is a prospect in the realm of like a LeBron James, which kind of feels like that's what he's being treated as. But long story short, I would take AJ.
Think so. It wouldn't be a debate if he was treated as LeBron James. It wouldn't be a debate at all. Like, right now, which is crazy to me. Darryn hasn't played in a few months, and AJ hasn't played since March. But people are shifting their draft boards, and it's not like they worked out against each other. So it's like, how do you even make a shift
Well,
and
you look
remove
at the
somebody from number one?
easy. You look at the entire prospect. You got to go back and look. It's like what is it? They have these look backs on your taxes to see if you can find some different ways to add some money to your return, or if you don't have return, owe less. It's the same thing with draft film. I think a team, you have new information, you have old information. You say, okay, the new information for Darryn is he was, they say he was dealing with severe cramping. All right, so with severe cramping, what I saw was he averaged almost a point a minute. He shot almost 40% from three, and in X amount of games less, he was a better defender than AJ Dybantsa. It's just new information. Again, I understand both sides of it. I understand not jumping ship, but I also understand saying, you know what, there's no way that kid that we saw in high school just doesn't exist anymore.
Yeah, I think if you're the Wizards and you like Darryn, then you take him. If you think that he's going to be the best player in 5 years, 10 years, then you take him. I just don't understand like the shift as teams are, mocks are now starting to put Darryn number one. Again, they haven't played. I mean, I think ultimately they go AJ, but you never know. I mean, you never know. I remember a few years ago, I was Ben Carroll all the way through, and Jabari was supposed to be the guy that went number one. He ends up going number three. You never know. You just never know what happens. But again, I'm AJ Dybantsa. I mean, the guy averaged 25 points per game, shot over 51% from the floor. When I look at stats, I kind of got like one of my favorite stats that I look up. And he was one of only 8 players in all of college basketball that had 43s and 40 dunks. And those are two of the, the hot spots, the hot zones on the floor that teams or scouts look for as far as like, the whole analytics. And I think AJ showed that he's a much better passer and playmaker than a lot of people thought coming into the year. Yeah, defensively, he wasn't great, but he has the tools. He definitely has the tools to be a really good defender. I thought he played good defense at the U19s last year when Michael Brown was the star of that team. So I think it's in him to defend. I'm just curious to see like what it looks like for both players and how they fit with the Wizards. So we'll start with AJ first. How do you think he fits with this Wizards current roster?
I think you slot him in at the 2, and again, current roster, assuming that they bring guys back, contracts, guys, the veterans, Trae Young and Anthony Davis. I assume that the lineup is Trae Young, AJ at the 2. It doesn't really matter. AJ on the wing, Keyshawn George on the wing, Alex Sarr on the, wherever you want to put him at, and then Anthony Davis. That's an extremely long lineup behind Trae Young. I think at that point, AJ Dybantsa doesn't have a choice but to defend at a high level, because if you bring in Anthony Davis and Anthony Davis is able to play enough games on the team, like he's going to want the young fellas to, defend at a high level. My biggest concern for AJ on that team is what does it look like when he doesn't have the ball in his hands? And he's had the ball in his hands for the entirety of his career, but he really struggles to shoot off of the catch. And when you really look at it, like if we go back to the under 19 team, that was probably the most talented team that he's ever played on. He really struggled scoring outside of, he's going to draw fouls and getting out in transition, but he really struggled off the catch there. That's my biggest concern, or biggest thing that I'm trying to see with AJ as a Wizard. As far as Darryn goes, it's much of the same thing, but I don't think he struggles playing off the catch, because he really improved as a catch and shoot guy his freshman year at Kansas. I think he seamlessly fits in to that and gives you all that same just wing scoring, but probably an easier transition into the NBA playing off of guys, because he played off of guys at Kansas.
Yeah, what's interesting about that is if you're the Wizards and everybody's back, or plan for them, Trae, AD, who do you build around? Like obviously AD's older, but who do you say, all right, this is who the offense is going to evolve around. Because if you put it around AJ, which you're drafting him number 1, so you have to assume like he's the future of the franchise. That probably alienates the 2 max guys and all-star guys on the team. So I do think that from a fit based off the current roster, I think Darryn is probably an easier fit. But again, it's just a weird situation where a guy could come in and be the number 1 pick and have 2 all-stars on his team.
I
That's
think
crazy.
As far as like playing through guys, man, you just roll the ball out and hoop. Like with those guys, you can run pick and roll action with any of them. With Keyshawn George, Sarr, and Anthony Davis, you can turn. I think Trae Young, off the ball is a better shooter because he's not shooting as deep threes. And, off the dribble shots are much tougher. I think Trae Young is you can have him off the ball more often because AJ's really good in high pick and roll, at least getting downhill. I wouldn't. It's almost like you got a wristband full of options with that team because, like you said, they have 2 veterans, and you don't have to force feed somebody into a role, and you just hoop. You stagger the lineups when when Anthony Davis is out, whether it be rest or out of the the game, then you slide Keyshawn George to the 4. And now you play through AJ there a little bit more. Maybe you start off with Trae and Anthony Davis in 1-5 pick and roll. When Trae Johnson's in the game, that's a totally different dynamic. Maybe AJ's the point guard for the second unit that features him and, Trae Johnson and those guys. I think that's a good problem to have.
On paper, would this Wizards team with either Darryn or AJ be better than a Miami Heat team with Giannis and Davion Mitchell and Bam and Norm Powell? I mean, I imagine they'd be deeper.
I think the Wizards, even if they didn't have the number 1 pick, should be in consideration for a play-in team anyway. But now you add the number 1 pick, whether it's AJ or Darryn, I think they should be a playoff team. On paper, they are better than the Heat, but the problem is a lot of that hinges on Anthony Davis's health. And, if I'm a betting man, I'm betting against him playing 50 games in the NBA at his advanced age. So if he plays 60 games, they should absolutely be a playoff team. There's just no, and like that's a great it's going to be hard to score on him and Alex Sarr. And Keyshawn George is a goon as well. So, but it's an 82 game season. It's a grind. You have to be able. The best ability in the NBA is still availability.
All right, let's talk about the green room invites. Well, you did an article, I think, on June 10th, and then I did one a couple of days ago on NBABigBoard.com. So if you're not subscribed, please check it out, NBABigBoard.com. And so far, 24 guys have been invited, and I'll just go down the list. In the first wave, AJ Dybantsa, Darryn Peterson, Cam Boozer, Caleb Wilson, Keaton Wagler, Michael Brown Jr., Darius Acuff, Adai Mara, Karim Lopez, Kingston Flemings, Nate Ament, Brayden Burries, Christian Anderson, and LeBaron Philon. So that was the first wave. I was shocked that Yaxel Lindenberg wasn't in that first wave. And I was more shocked that Christian Anderson was in that first wave. So, I mean, give or take how you feel about the order of its release, how it's released. But if Christian Anderson is lottery pick, that I think that'll throw a lot of people off. The second wave was Cameron Carr, Chris Sanak Jr., Yaxel Lindenberg, Morez Johnson, Hannes Steinbach, Bennett Sturts. And then the last wave that just came out a couple of days ago was Allen Graves, Dailyn Swain, Isaiah Evans, and Ibuka Okori. So 2 guys that were left off that I wrote about a couple of days ago were Jayden Quaintance and Koa Peat. Now, I'm not surprised with Pete, and I'm not too surprised with Quaintance, but these are 2 guys that coming into the season, a lot of people thought they were both lottery picks. Different reasons why I imagine they were being left out, but how far do you think they could fall? Because right now there's 24 guys, right? Last year they invited 25 guys. and only Danny Wolf and Liam McNeely were selected outside of the top 25, but everybody was picked in the first round. So, with that being said, do you think Quaintance and Peat fall outside of the top 24?
I think it's a possibility. On the mock draft that I'm currently working on, Giannis kind of holding me hostage right now, but I'm still put it
The
out.
whole league. The whole league.
It's not just me. All right, man. Come on,
Yeah.
Giannis. Let's get. Come on, man. I'm not trying to edit this at 3 o'clock in the morning. But on the mock that I am currently working on, I still have Pete and Quaintance in the top 24. I'm still very high on Jayden Quaintance. Him not getting a green room invite is a bit alarming for me because that means, or at least it sounds like, the knee isn't where we want it to be. But that's just speculation. But at the same time, I still think that, a year off for him to get healthy, I still think he's a top 10 talent, and I had him in the top 10 even on my last big board. Again, there's a huge question mark of the knee. And as far as Koa Peat goes, man, it's just interesting to see how he's being evaluated. Koa Peat shot the same from the 3-point line as Chris Sinak Jr. Koa Peat shot the same from the free throw line as Chris.
Yeah. But how many attempts was it? I mean, it wasn't even an attempt.
Do you think Chris Sinak was getting them up?
No, but I just think it's kind of, if Chris Sinak if he's a 5 and he's a 30-some% 3-point shooter, that's
you think Chris Sinak is a 5 that doesn't block shots in the NBA?
No, I mean, I got my concerns about him, but yeah, I mean, I just think you got to put some context in that.
All right, so Chris Sinak shot 2 threes a game at 30-some%. Koa Peat shot less than a 3 per game.
Less than 1.
Less than 1. All right, so then you look at the free throw line, because the free throw line is a huge indicator of shooting. Koa Peat shot 62% from the free throw line, and Chris Sinak, and that was on almost 5 attempts. So again, we know he can't shoot, right? That's pretty much obvious. And Chris Sinak shot less than 2 free throw attempts per game.
Yeah.
So what I'm just trying to say is,
what did Sinak shoot from the free throw line?
He shot 62%. So what I'm trying to say is the jury should be out on both of them as shooters.
Yeah, but if I'm a betting man, I'm taking Sinak over Koa Peat in shooting any day of the week.
Sure, but
I believe in his shooting stroke long term. It looks good.
You're betting on it because it looks good. This is not me saying Koa Peat is a shooter. I just find it's interesting to see that one guy is billed as a promising shooter because he took a couple more threes, but he's still a poor free throw shooter versus the guy who didn't take threes and is a poor free throw shooter. But I still buy Koa Peat as an NBA player. I really like him in Philadelphia, and I think Philadelphia's at 22. His shooting concerns are a lot lower next to Joel Embiid because Joel Embiid doesn't play on the block. He plays at the free throw line. He plays he plays in the mid post. So Koa Peat as a cutter, Koa Peat as a release valve for when teams double team Tyrese Maxey, I really like him there. So, but him not getting a green room invite is still, I mean, I get it, but I don't get it.
Who are your guys that got green room invites that you think are outside of your top 24?
I think the only one would be Ben. So I think this is a 25-man draft. So the guy who got one who's out of my top 24, not Bennett Sturts, I'm sorry. Isaiah Evans, I have him at 30, 31, maybe. It depends on how a team views Zooey. He's the main one, but I think this is a 25-man draft. And 25 through 30 is really 25 through like 32, 33. But Isaiah Evans would be the one that is a question mark to me. But that's why I'm trying to figure out, like, it's 24 guys. Isaiah Evans got in, Koa Peat didn't get in. Bennett Sturts, while I have him going like a little later, I still expect him to get a green room invite. Later, like 25, 26.
He got one.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. I have him out of my top 24, but I do expect him to go in the top 24. It's just me putting my stuff together. I would have swapped out definitely Isaiah Evans, and I would have swapped out him getting an invite over Quaintance or Koa Peat. And that's not me being low on Sturge. That's just I think it's the 26-man draft and only 24 guys got invited.
I have this weird feeling, and I could be wrong. It's just this feeling, and it just seems like such a Sam Presti thing. But I can see Sam Presti taking Quaintance at 17. I know they took Sorber last year, redshirted him. They redshirted Nikola Topic. Also, they redshirted Chet. And for Presti, it's like, all right, I'll take Quaintance. I'll let him heal up. And then just, let him and Sorber battle it out. And whoever comes out on top is who will keep. And now it just seems like the rich can get richer, and now they can have another defensive anchor after they give him a year to heal up. Because I mean, if you're Sam Presti, you have ultimate job security. You can swing for the fences, and if the pick doesn't work out, you're good. There's some guys some teams that they need to hit on the pick.
I got another one for you. If the Thunder don't take him, the Spurs at 20.
Yeah. Spurs at 20.
Imagine, because look, Victor is 4 or 5, however which way you want to, move him. Imagine trying to score on them when you got Castle hounding you. You got Dylan Harper hounding. So you got to get by those dudes, hacking, hand checking, beating you up. Then there's 7'5" back there, and then there's the dude that's extremely athletic who can probably guard if he's healthy. He can guard, on the perimeter as well. I understand. I completely understand why, Quaintance would fall out of the top 10, out of the lottery because of the knee. But, you got you got the top of the West. I think they're going to look at him.
I like that. And you take away, if you're San Antonio and you get him, you eliminate if Quaintance maximizes his potential, becomes the defensive anchor that we think he could be. But having that on your team means he doesn't face Victor in a playoff series. Yeah, I like that. But I just wonder, will he be available at 20 because the Thunder are picking at number 17? I've never been sold on Koa Peat. I know you liked him years ago. You talked about his film with Compton Magic where he showed a little bit more. I had this conversation. I was in Italy at Eurocamp a couple weeks ago, and I was talking to some people from the Compton Magic, and they, were basically just kind of talking about they were actually a little surprised that he did return to school. I mean, he did not return to school, and how the later he's picked, the more likely he could end up playing in the G League. And one of the things that crossed my mind is, all right, what if he goes to a playoff team, and minutes are hard to come by, but he does play in the G League, which I would choose to develop at Arizona and make millions over the G League anytime. But what if the playmaking and the ball handling that you saw with the Compton Magic, what if that is there? We didn't see it at Arizona. Could it be like James Johnson? And I'm old enough to remember James Johnson was a lottery pick by Chicago, kind of falls out of the league, goes to the RGV Vipers, which is the Houston Rockets G League team, and they let him play 1 through 5. And it basically showed how talented he was, that he was not a guy that you can kind of put into a box. And I remember going to those games when I was working for the Texas Legends. 1 minute he's initiating the offense, the next minute he's playing the 5. And James Johnson had a long career after that because he became like this toolsy weapon. Do you think Koa Peat has some of that in him to where if he goes to a playoff team and he gets G League minutes and then he goes in the G League and showcases that he's more than just like an athletic play finisher and cutter? Do you think there's a chance of that happening?
I do think there's a chance of that happening. And I understand not wanting to be in the G League, but you want to play. And at the same time, the way that the league is set up, it's a war of attrition, man. You're not going to spend the entire, especially on a playoff team, you're not going to spend unless you can't play, the entire season, in the G League, you're gonna have to come up because guys need rest. Like let's say the Knicks take Koa Peat at 24. I assume that Mitchell Robinson's gonna have his suitors in the offseason. So you're gonna need backup big minutes in New York. While you need a Koa Peat type guy, may I be Koa Peat, but you need 4 or 5 rotation minutes because your team played. I mean, yes, they beat everybody up, but they played up until June. Legs are going to get heavy. It's really hard to repeat. You're going to need some of those youthy minutes, as Stephon Marbury would say. I don't think it's a bad thing for Koa Peat to go to the G League and show people what he really is. I think really when you look at him and Brayden Burries, those guys scaled down to make that team work. Brayden Burries, playing for Strive for Greatness, handled the ball. At Arizona, he caught the ball on the move. You see what I'm saying? We Compton Magic, Koa Peat was a point forward, like legit point forward. He handled the ball a lot. Do I expect it's not high school basketball? Do I expect to see that exact thing? But I think Koa Peat works in the NBA because he can rebound, push the ball up the court. He initiates dribble handoff action. I think he is. While you don't want to feature him on the block, if he catches a small and dribble handoff action on a mismatch, I think he's talented enough to either score or find a open teammate in the corner. I think again, I mentioned before in Philadelphia, you blitz Tyrese Maxey, and now Koa Peat's the ball handler playing 4-on-3. He's spraying the ball around the court, finding shooters in the corner. Yeah, I just don't think going back to the college was the best thing for him. I think he's going to end up in a great situation because a playoff team is going to value what he brings to the table. He could be very Draymond-like in a sense where he's an undersized 4-5 that just is a basketball player, and we can't put him in the box. I like the James Johnson. Doing your homework, man.
Yeah,
you're not rusty.
I know you're a James Johnson fan, but man, yeah, I saw it. I mean, back when I was with the Texas Legends, this was back when the G League didn't have the money that they have now, and you played the same team, in close proximity. You played them like every other day. So it was like we played. They were called the Austin Toros, and they were called the
Real Grand
Tulsa 66ers. And I mean, you just played those teams like just over and over and over and over again. So I saw a lot of James Johnson. But Koa Peat, I hope I'm wrong, but I believe like if you go to college, go back to school, you'll make more money than you would as a late first round pick. And you're gonna play 30 minutes per game at Arizona. Which, he bet on himself, and I always have respect for guys that bet on themselves. But, I just think it's interesting that his stock has seemed to drop. He decided to change the mechanics on his shot.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Right before the biggest interview of his career. And it seems, as of right now, that it's probably hurting him more than it's helping him. All right, let's talk a little bit about his teammate at Arizona, Brayden Burries. He's on my list of polarizing prospects. I know he's like one of the favorites. Draft Twitter loves him. It's not that I don't like him, but I'm not as sold on him as a lot of people. What are your thoughts on Brayden Burries?
I have him in the 9-10 range. I buy his floor. He had to grow on me. He really had to grow on me before the season started. He was an older prospect, and he was I don't know why. It doesn't really matter because he's going to get drafted in the lottery, right? But he was an older prospect that had been physically developed for some time.
Older freshman.
Yes, not Yaxel old. But I didn't understand it, but that doesn't matter because it worked out, right? But I just think that Brayden Burries is in secondary action, second side action, dribble handoff. He gets to his right hand, he's going to get to the basket. He can draw fouls. He was at 60%, above 60% at the rim. And he shot the ball well enough on enough volume to make you believe that he can be a good three-point shooter. My biggest thing is I necessarily don't know what his ceiling is. I do buy his floor as being a starting shooting guard. I know he didn't really measure well, but he rebounds, he gets out in transition. He's going to defend. Sometimes just those baseline skills gets you just enough. He seems like a 17 point per game guy in the NBA at some point in his career, just because he's going to force his way to the basket. I just don't know how much individual creativity does he have in the NBA, and that's where I'm trying to figure out what he is. But why is he polarizing to you, Rob?
Maybe it's just a blind spot. Maybe it's just the eye test. He's efficient from the floor, but prior to college, he wasn't an efficient 3-point shooter. And so, you just have to wonder, like, did he have a good season, or did he really work on his shot? It's a lot of the questions I asked about Davion Mitchell when he came into the draft, because he had like that one good year at Baylor where he shot the cover off the ball, but the priors before that weren't good. But if he ends up being Davion Mitchell, that's a starting caliber guard. But it took Mitchell, what is it, 3 teams?
He was in Toronto for a second.
Yeah, so it took him, on his 3rd team to, and then we have this theory, like, sometimes guys look good in that Miami Heat uniform, and when you take it off of them,
that's not a theory. That's factual information, man.
So I know Burries. I mean, like, you look at the numbers, 49, 39, 80 shooting splits. I know he rebounds. For some reason, I'm just not 100% sold on the 3-point shooting. Now, of course, that's something that he can improve. And if you believe in free throw shooting as an indicator of shooting touch, then the signs are there. But something, I just can't put my finger on it. And I do think that 9 or 10 range is fine. But when I start seeing people saying like he might go 5, that's when I'm like, that's a little too rich for my blood.
No, I feel you there. If he goes 5, that's 100% based on fit, not on talent to me. But at the same time, the Clippers at 5, you got 2 more years of Darius Garland under contract. So you figure at point guard, you can't really take Darius Acuff, right? How does Acuff and Garland play together? You could take a Wagler. He's 6'6". You could take Michael Brown. He's 6'4", 6'5". You can't take Kingston Flemings at 5. So I could see a scenario where if the Clippers are like, that's the guy we want, we'll draft who the Mavs want at 5 and trade him for if Brayden Burries. I could see Brayden Burries sliding to 9 and say, you know what, we'll trade 5 for 9. Both teams get who we want, and we walk away from that situation. That's if the Clippers don't decide to keep either Wagler or Michael Brown if they select either of the two.
Yeah, if I'm the Clippers, I'm taking Michael at 5. And I mean, it's going to be a quick one. If he's available at 5, which everyone expects him to be, and then on draft night, they're going to be like, the pick is in. But that's just me. Is there any prospect like that stands out to you as far as just being polarizing, that you're having a hard time, like, trying to figure out, like, who he is or what's his role in the NBA?
Karim Lopez stands out to me. The Nets brought him in for a workout at 6. I don't have him at 6, but I feel like I understand who Karim Lopez is. I think he's a good basketball player. I think he's good at a lot of things. I think the shooting needs to improve. I guess I could say what's polarizing for me and Karim Lopez is I don't see him higher. I don't have him higher than Dailyn Swain. Right. And Dailyn Swain, I have Dailyn Swain as a lottery pick. I know you're a Dailyn Swain fan as well, Ralph, but I've seen others mock him in the 20s. And I'm like, okay, he's 2 years older than Karim. It might even just be a year older than Karim Lopez, right? Because Dailyn Swain was an extremely young junior. So, like, I think Dailyn Swain is just an overall better basketball. I think he does everything better than Karim Lopez. So I guess that's polarizing. I could see Karim Lopez going as high as the lottery, but I would have him personally in the early 20s, like 2021 is where I have him going.
Yeah, I don't know if he gets past San Antonio, just, for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I mean, he feels a need.
Yeah, and, just he'd be a very popular pick. I mean, yeah, I mean, I have some concerns about him. I like Dailyn Swain, though. I mean,
who put you on Dailyn Swain, man?
Are you? Well, I mean, I wasn't gonna say put me on him, but you made me watch him a little bit closer. I didn't watch a lot of him at Xavier the year before, but I do like what he brings to the table. We all have our, like the certain things about prospects that we like. And I love guys that can just go get buckets. He was like the top isolation scorer. So, and he's got size and he can handle. The shooting is the biggest knock, but I'll
He shot
take
the
that.
ball
Like
well
I'll
his
take
senior year.
he did, but it's one of those things where do you believe like
Yeah,
are you if you bring him off the bench cold in the NBA and he's open in the corner, is he going you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
but I mean I think he can improve as a shooter. I just like what he brings to the table. And for me, size, athleticism, handle, offensive creativity, I'll take that. And then I figure, you know what, we can work on the shooting later. So I'm definitely higher on Swain. Now, let's talk about Nate Ament. Are you a Nate Ament guy?
He's not polarizing to me because I understand who he's not. He's not Kevin Durant.
Yeah,
It's just
exactly.
that's not polarizing to me. I think he goes because again he's 6'10", maybe 6'11". He can kind of dribble. We think he's going to be a better shooter. I think a team like once Milwaukee figures out where they're picking at aside from 10, I think Milwaukee takes him. I believe their general manager that's his kind of player that he likes, which is tall and talented. But I just think that Nate Ament, the at the rim struggles. I can't deny him. And that's not just the Tennessee floor space. He struggled playing for Team Loaded, getting to the basket. I think he struggles to create space. I think you can put smalls on him. And when you're 6'10" and you can put smalls on guys, or a small can be put on you, that's kind of a red flag to me. But I think he is long term a third option. I want to see him really, really buy in on the defensive end because I do think he has the lateral mobility to be a good defender. I don't think he has the lateral mobility with the ball in his hands to be the type of offensive player that the Kevin Durant comparisons unfairly
No,
were placed on him to.
that was crazy. I mean, he's more Zach Ricochet than Kevin Durant.
Yeah.
And some of the concerns I have with Ricochet, I have with Ament. And Ricochet, he had a crazy stretch where he was knocking down everything from three. But yeah, I mean, Nate is gonna go high. I was never like bought into the hype from high school either. I mean, I get he came out of nowhere. He had a hot summer, a hot season, and I get the physical tools and all that. I just don't know like what's the skill set he hangs his hat on. He got to the foul line a lot at Tennessee, but he's not getting those calls as a rookie. Not a good finisher at the rim. Not like a sniper. Like you're just betting on upside and size. I mean, he's not like a crazy athlete. Like I struggle with does he need to be tougher? But and I don't want to use the word soft because he does rebound. Like usually guys who are soft like don't rebound. I just wonder like does he have the consistent like toughness to like survive? And I don't even have a player comp for him to be honest with you. I mean, Ricochet is probably the closest thing. And
You
then
know,
just thinking out loud, it's like, dang, if it was 2024 and Ament played in France and he was hitting well enough, would he be the number one pick? You know what I mean? Like, I mean, if he doesn't go to college, like if he literally did not go to college, right? He just said, "Hey, I'm gonna sit this season out and train." And they strategically posted videos of him working out and knocking down shots. He'd probably be a top 5 pick.
speaking of
Going to
strategically
college, hurt
posting Speaking of strategically posting videos, I thought it was absolutely brilliant that he worked out with AJ Dybantsa. Because it's like, you know what? That's the number one, at worst, number two pick. I can do everything he does with the ball and an empty gym. I mean, that's some great propaganda to put out. I got a comparison for you, and it comes down to toughness. And again, this is not me saying I don't think he's not tough. Like he fell down with an ankle injury, Nate Amen, and he could have shut it down. He decided to come back. That's a level of toughness. Now, is that's toughness to get back on the floor? Is that toughness as a basketball player in the trenches? That's different. But when I look at, and I did this in the video that I did on Nate Ament, when I break down the video, I break down the struggles. Jayden McDaniels, similar size, similar frame, similar high school pedigree, similar college statistics. The biggest difference between the two of them was like Jayden McDaniels was a better shot blocker, right? Again, I know you don't mess with the steal percentage, block percentage, but that was really the main difference. Both struggled to shoot from the field. Ament obviously got to the free throw line more because he had higher usage, but I think that path is more realistic for Nate Ament than it is for him to be this primary scorer in the NBA.
See, I thought McDaniels had more like offensive game,
but you didn't
like
get to see
more,
any of it until he got to Minnesota because
you saw flashes of it at Washington. It just wasn't efficient. But I give him all the credit in the world because he was like, I want to stick. All right, let me go ahead and be this defender. But he was also a guy that had KD comparisons. But I actually see more when I watched high school Jayden McDaniels. I saw more Kevin Durant than I see from Nate Ament.
Right. But I make that comparison to say that Ament should probably, it won't happen because where he's going to be drafted, right? Jayden McDaniels went to the Nuggets. He was picked in the 20s. So you have to defend at a high level. I think for Ament to be the best version of himself, he has to be a really good defender and a third option that can occasionally get you 20 versus the guy who, I forget which scout service ranked him number 1. And obviously, Tennessee head coach said he was Kevin Durant Jr. That's not realistic, right?
I mean, you got to do what you got to do to get him on campus.
Nah, I wouldn't lie to nobody, man. I'm not lying to you. I'm not saying you're Kevin Durant Jr. Kevin Durant averages 28 as a 38-year-old man. Like, come on, man. What are we doing, man? Don't lie to my son.
Yeah. McDaniels was drafted by the Lakers and then was part of a trade. That's how he ended up with the Timberwolves. All right. Who's your biggest sleeper?
I would go with, I think Dailyn Swain is a sleeper in comparison.
He was invited to the green room.
I don't think there's a sleeper in this. This is a top 25 draft. I don't think there's a second round. Again, I probably will be wrong, but I don't think there's a second round guy who emerges in this draft as somebody who should have been a first round pick because the majority of that talent, those guys went back to school. I've seen the names like Bruce Thornton thrown around. I've mentioned, Zuby. I thought Zuby was an NBA player prior to this year. I've seen guys like that, but are they sleepers or are they guys that are going to get a chance to play in the NBA? I don't think there's a Maxime Reynaud in this draft, but is Reynaud a sleeper when you had him as a lottery pick? I had him going like 20, and we weren't surprised at his production. I just think that this draft is different. Like, it's the top 25 and then 25 through like 31. And then it's a bunch of guys who might say, you know what, don't draft me because it may be more advantageous for me to go to pick my destination versus, going to a situation where I don't have any control over.
I got a sleeper. Jack Kayil from Alba Berlin.
School me on Jack Kayil. I'm going to be the hater, Raf. He shot 31% from the field. He shot 28% from 3. He on that Germany team, that under 18, under 19 team, I don't remember him doing anything. He was like the third best player on the team that the Americans blew out. So I'm the hater.
School me on him. He just won the German League Championship today. They beat Bayern Munich. So in Europe, young players. It's hard for teams in the top league to trust young players. So Kayil's the guy on the German national team. They featured Steinbach, and Christian Anderson. He was like the third wheel. And you can make a case to say he might have been their fourth guy because Declan Duru, who was at Texas, I forgot where he transferred to, was a guy that was highly touted. Kayil goes to Alba Berlin, and it's his team, and he leads them to the championship. They win the German league. If you look at the numbers, and I spent a lot of time watching him this year, I watched him. I pretty much watched every game. And then as far as like in person, I saw him play probably like 4 or 5 times. One, like the numbers are deceiving in a sense because you got to add context to it. He shot a lot of grenades. There was one game I counted. He had 8 shots where his teammates threw him the ball with under 5 seconds left, and he had to shoot it. He was their creator. He also had a stretch where he had a calf strain. And you see in the NBA when guys have calf strain out weeks.
No,
like
shutting it down.
You're out at least 6 to 8 weeks. I don't know the grade his was, but there was a game that I was planning to go to. I saw he had a calf strain. I didn't go. So then there's like a FIBA window, and he was like the starting point guard on Germany's national team during that window. So I was like, okay, he's going to play. So then I went to go watch him play, and they have this tournament in Germany called the Top 4, where the top 4 teams, like a mid-season tournament. It's like basically their version of the NBA Cup. And he got his team to the championship game. You could tell that he wasn't right. Like he wasn't going to the rim at all because of the calf, but he was tough. I mean, he made the right passes. He's a little turnover prone, but I think he has all the intangibles. He's got good size. Is he like a sniper right now? No. But he's a guy that's a winner. Like he won with the German team. I think they won the U16 Euro Cup or Eurobasket. I'm sorry, U18 Eurobasket, went to the gold medal game, and then he won just, the German league. So he's played for winning teams. And I don't know if you could swap out some of the other point guards or even some of the other young players in this draft class and tell them, all right, I need you to go to a team at 19 or 20 years old, be their best player, be the guy that at the end of the shot clock, you have to create for everyone. You're going to mess up your stats. I don't know too many guys that could have done that. So I just think he's been very underrated throughout his career, even in Europe. Like even when he played for Mega, you didn't hear much about him. So I've watched him play live prior to this season a lot. I liked him. I can't say I expected him to do this, but there was a point in January where I thought, all right, if he goes to college, he's going to be a lottery pick in 2027. And I've felt this way for a while. So when he decided to keep his name in the draft, I wasn't shocked. And to me, for him to keep his name in the draft, I think there's a team that likes him as much as I do. And I think he's only helped his stock by winning. So he's my sleeper. A lot of people aren't talking about him, but he's a guy that I follow very closely this year. And again, don't let the percentages, you got to add context. He shot a lot of bombs and he had to create a lot of offense late in the shot clock. But
who for the viewers, listeners, is his player comp for you?
I had somebody ask me this question. So one answer that came to my mind was maybe he's everything Killian Hayes was supposed to be. So if he's Killian Hayes with confidence, that's a player. If he's Jalen Suggs without the football background, that's a solid player. So not too many guys are going to be as physical as a defender as Jalen Suggs, but if he's that type of guard, I could see that.
So you're calling him a combo guard? Yeah, Suggs is a defensive back. He's out there playing football. Kayil or Sergio Larrea? I want to roll my R's, but I don't want to, go ahead.
Larrea. I would go Kayil. I would go with Kayil. I mean, Larrea is a guy that I follow pretty closely too. He's bigger. Shot like 40% from three. Was also on a good team, a team that went to the EuroLeague Final Four, and they're in the ACB finals right now. I think that the difference to me based off of their role is if you take Sergio off of Valencia, they still win games. Like he went a month or so without playing in the EuroLeague. Like he was in and out of the rotation. If you take Kayil off of Alba Berlin, they're not the champions of the German league. So I think that Kayil has kind of been in the shadows in the 1 year where he was not in the shadows, whether it's playing at Mega last year, the year before with my man Bogalu Markovic. He just wasn't featured like that. He has 1 year where he's featured and they win the championship. And so I just think that, and I actually had someone from Germany tell me that some people have always thought that he was better than Steinbach and Christian Andersen. But, you had to feature Andersen to get him to commit to playing. And Steinbach is, a guy that a lot of people like. Obviously, he has ties to Dirk. He's a big. But I had some people tell me that when you watch Germany, when he was like the primary ball handler, that they never missed a beat. And they just thought he was just as effective as Christian Andersen.
Next question for you, Raf. For context, compare the German league to a league in the NCAA.
I mean, to me, comparing pro leagues and college leagues is tough because, you look at a guy like, what's my man's name at Houston? Juwan Roberts. He was on his team. And he started at Houston for I don't know how many years. He major player in Houston. But for Alba Berlin, he was, his role was probably less than what it was at Houston. There's some good players in Germany. I think that ACB in Spain is the toughest domestic league. Bayern Munich is the team that plays in the EuroLeague, which is the toughest league outside of the NBA. And Alba Berlin beat a EuroLeague team. And Alba Berlin was not a EuroLeague team this year. They're a Euro Cup. It's an older league. Leagues in Europe are a lot older than teams in the States. I placed a lot of value in a young player in Europe playing, because if you're young in Europe and you're actually playing major minutes, it's because you earned them and you beat out a veteran. It's not like the NBA where if they draft you high and they say, well, you got to build for the future, we're going to give you minutes. Like you actually beat out a family man, a man that has a wife and kids to play a lot of minutes. So a lot of times European players don't get significant minutes. If you look at the draft, you see guys averaging like 4 points a game and so on. But for him to have average double figures and playing on a winning team, that holds a lot of weight with me. Well, that wraps up this episode of the NBA Draft Junkies podcast. We'll be back throughout the week. This is draft week, and we're going to be here throughout the summer. No breaks. Obviously, if you followed us on the Locked On NBA Big Board channel, James and I got crazy chemistry because we're brothers. But we're going to do things a little bit different now. We're going to really, really focus this summer on grassroots. We're going to talk about young international players. We're not just going to talk about the draft. We're going to be here all summer long, no off season. Stick with us. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. Once again, it's Rafael and James Barlowe, and we are out of here.